An SUV sent flying, a car rear-ended after stopping on the highway, a driver sent off-road to avoid a wreck, and tons of instant justice caught on Dashcam. All this and more on today's episode of Wham Bam Dashcam. Our first submitter was approaching an intersection he called notorious for collisions when an oncoming driver ran their red light before T-boning another SUV, sending it rolling through the air. After the impact, the Jeep rolled onto its side, and we can actually see the airbags on the passenger side inflating moments before the Jeep lands. Our submitter rendered aid while his wife called 911. With the help of bystanders, he helped the Jeep driver out and made sure nobody was injured. First responders arrived 5 or 6 minutes later, but our submitter told us the driver of the red SUV admitted to exceeding the 35-mile-per-hour speed limit by 10 to 15 miles per hour before the police arrived. He later sent a copy of this footage, which clearly shows the red SUV running the red light, to the Colorado Springs Police Department after they requested it. James was driving in Virginia when he encountered a Honda Accord stopped in the middle of a highway with a 60-mile-per-hour speed limit. James told us the Honda driver had made a U-turn before running out of gas. Moments after rear-ending the Accord, James' Mitsubishi Eclipse was struck by a Honda Pilot. All 3 vehicles involved were totaled. James told us he has no memory of the incident, but after insurance claims were filed, his insurance provider determined he was at fault for the collision and doubled his premiums. This submitter was on his way to work one morning when a random man came stumbling out of the woods before throwing himself in front of and then onto his Subaru Forester. After throwing himself on the front of our submitter's vehicle, he sped off before the guy was able to hit it with his stick. When he posted this video to a local group on social media, he got a surprising comment in response. Someone else told him they'd witnessed the incident from a vehicle following behind him, and the crazed man ran back into the woods after our submitter drove away. He said he's now nervous anytime he drives on that ramp. He also said, to anyone and everyone without a dash cam, get one. Get the best you can afford with front and rear cameras if possible. This submitter was headed toward an intersection where traffic in the other lane had stopped in spite of a green light after a car broke down. Watch what happened when another driver locked up their brakes and started sliding. After colliding with our submitter's Scion XA, he lost control and slammed into a pickup driver who'd started changing lanes to go around the stalled motorist. In total, 4 vehicles were involved in the incident. Our submitter called the police, and thankfully, the driver responsible didn't flee the scene. Our submitter's Scion was totaled by the multiple impacts. Brandon was on his way home with his fiancée when a Mustang driver who'd been tailgating them finally sped by in the oncoming lane. What he didn't see was an SUV stopped on the shoulder with its lights off. By the time the Mustang driver realized there was a cop running a speed trap, it was too late. Even though he hit the brakes to slow down, the party lights came on and Brandon pulled over to let the cop pass him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't this exactly what we all hope will happen when we're being tailgated? Gotta love that instant justice. Daniel had a frightening experience when a pickup driver turned across his lane, forcing him to go off-road to avoid a 70-mile-per-hour head-on collision. After going into the grass, Daniel had to swerve back onto the road to avoid hitting a group of construction workers standing next to the road. Thankfully, even though he was shaken up, he was able to avoid a collision. Bo was driving his Ram 1500 down a wet Mississippi highway when he suddenly lost all traction and began hydroplaning. What followed was likely the scariest 9 seconds of his life. Bo's pickup slid down an embankment and into a ditch, nearly flipping over before being stopped by vegetation. His insurance policy covered the $18,000 repair bill. What do you think was the cause of this incident, and what do you think Bo could have done to avoid or mitigate it? Let us know in the comments below. This submitter experienced some random road rage when a Subaru driver he'd never encountered before suddenly cut in front of him before brake checking his Ford Focus. Our submitter doesn't know why this happened, but he chose not to retaliate. Even so, he did end up passing the Subaru when the driver took an exit, and that's when the driver threw a water bottle at his car. Even though the full and closed water bottle hit our submitter's car, he told us it didn't cause any damage. The Subaru driver took the exit, and that was the last the two drivers saw of each other. We always get comments about road rage incidents that say something like, "I'm sure something happened earlier that we're not seeing." Well, we reviewed footage all the way back to before this submitter got on the highway. The Subaru can't be seen anywhere until the moment he flies in front of our submitter and steps on the brakes. Why do you think he did this? Post your theory in the comments. Watch the Chevy pickup ahead of Jeff turn left from a right turn only lane. Jeff had just dropped his son off at school and was leaving the parking lot when he watched this happen. The pickup driver misjudged traffic and was T-boned by another pickup after making an illegal left turn. Jeff stopped and offered his dashcam footage to the victim, and he also waited for the police to arrive and gave them a statement. Thankfully, neither driver was hurt by the collision. Catherine was on her way home from college when she noticed the driver in the left turn only lane next to her was actually going straight, and she had to abort her own turn to avoid a collision. Catherine slammed on the brakes, jerked her steering wheel to the right, and honked to alert the other driver. She told us this is common at this intersection, and she's seen a lot of close calls just like this one. She also told us she got her dashcam after watching Wham Bam Dashcam. She always watches our videos while eating, and she appreciates the hard work of everyone on the Wham Bam team. Thanks, Catherine. Larry spotted a Mustang that must have thought there was a crowd nearby. After passing Larry in the rain, the Mustang spun out on the wet road surface before demonstrating the real reason why trees get planted in medians. Tree 1, Mustang 0. Larry told us he flagged down a sheriff's deputy and let him know about the collision before continuing. Dave ended up behind a Tesla Model Y one morning. As the drivers ahead of him approached a traffic light, one pickup driver made it through the yellow before another ran the light after it turned red. At first, the Tesla driver stopped at the red light, but then they decided to become today's Tesla behaving badly.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Dave watched the Tesla drive off into the sunrise, and he wanted to shout out his wife Melinda, who watches all the Wham Bam channels with him. Eva was driving down a road with one lane each direction, divided by double yellow lines, indicating that passing traffic in the oncoming lane isn't legal. That didn't stop the driver of a GMC SUV. The SUV driver's speed was higher than his IQ, and when he tried to turn, he flattened a stop sign and clipped another vehicle before speeding off again. Eva told us she gave a copy of her dashcam footage to the hit-and-run victim. This submitter was driving when a minivan driver from his right started cutting across his lane, and he had to swerve and honk to avoid a head-on collision. Thankfully, our submitter's quick reaction to the oblivious driver prevented any collision. He thanked us for making our videos and showing people how not to drive, and how to learn from the mistakes of others. This submitter's daughter was driving his Acura TLX when she ran a stop sign before T-boning a pickup truck that didn't have one. Our submitter told us that police responded to the scene after the collision. We're unsure if his Acura was totaled, but thankfully, nobody was seriously injured. Doc's coworker was driving a company van on his way to pick up materials for Doc's flooring business. Suddenly, the driver of an SUV entering the highway swerved to avoid a construction vehicle and clipped a semi-truck. Doc told us his coworker kept going, and when he came back the other way, both the SUV and the semi were still at the scene. He doesn't believe anyone was hurt, but he did say traffic had been backed up for miles. This damage was done to Andrew's car when he was sideswiped by a trailer being pulled by a pickup truck. Watch what happened right after he got off the interstate on his way home. Both drivers stopped and waited for the police, and Andrew told us the officer was very interested in seeing his dashcam footage. Aiden and his fiancée were headed to the gym when the Honda driver ahead of them apparently got tired of waiting for a red light. The Honda driver nearly T-boned a vehicle crossing with a green light, hitting the brakes just in time to avoid a collision. Thankfully for everyone involved, it was only a close call. Zachary watched an SUV driver pull into the road before being T-boned by an oncoming driver with the right-of-way. Zachary stopped and made sure both drivers were okay, then waited and showed responding police his dashcam footage. He also sent a copy of it to the victim. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured. Harry was headed to a short-term rental in Ohio when he suddenly saw a brilliant flash of light in the sky. Harry didn't tell us what he wished for, but we wish you'll subscribe if you like this video. By the way, some of our longtime fans have told us that YouTube unsubscribed them from our channels, and it took them a long time to realize it, so go ahead and double check. If the button is red, you're not subscribed. Watch this video to see another rear-end collision, only this one was on the highway and it ended up involving 3 vehicles, including our submitters. Or watch this video to see another impatient driver cause a massive wreck that sent bicycles scattering across the highway.
Wham, bam, we got a Patreon man. Please support the show.